This is a quick one. So this is one sentence. Yeah, so I put it together, but I separated it for easy reading in 3 lines. So Sie, who were we talking about before? Simone and Stefan. It's capitalized here because it's the very first word of a sentence, and no matter what the verb, the word, it is always capitalized if it's the first word in a sentence after a full stop, not after a comma. In this case, anyhow, not even. Yeah, so there has been a full stop before, and then we capitalize. So fahren, to fare, to drive. So they drive. Sometimes, if they drive, okay, so what do they drive? It's a bit weird to say. And Wald, you remember Walden, so something with forest, and Klein, small forests. Yeah. The N always or often gives away. The N at the end of a capitalized word gives away that it might be plural. So they drive small forests, gelb. Yeah, how do we do this? Well, gelb might be related to gold, and gold might be called gold because of gelb, which means yellow. But even if that's not true, it's a nice way to remember this. Yeah, in German, gelb and Geld might be related, and gold, so everything somehow is connected. But it means yell, V, yeah, and yellow. You see the B turns into V, well, in this case W. See the similarity. Yellow, Sonne, we had that in the first sentence of this course, is the sun. Blume means to bloom, which basically is the flower. And then we have Feld here. The ERN indicates a plural. The ER is the plural here, but the N also helps. So Feld, well, what is Feld? How can we do this? Well, very easy, actually. Feld is the same in English. It's just one letter missing. And so sun-blooming flowers is sunflowers, of course. So yellow sunflowers, and where do they grow? They grow on a field. And grün, grün sounds like, well, I was a bit fast, but green. Kuh is difficult. The German cows actually plant a big Kuh, a grand Kuh. Remember that. Wiese. If you have ever been to Oktoberfest, it's also called die Wiesen, which is die Wiesen, yeah, and that's because it is on a meadow. Yeah, so cows usually hang out on meadows. Well, at least in our romantic idea of that. Yeah, and vorbei is a word you now have to actually add to fahren, because the verb here is not fahren, but actually vorbei, fahren. And how do I say this? Vorbei, drive by. And this is easy to remember. Vorbei, bye-bye. Yeah? So, vorbei, fahren, bye-bye. And the dots don't mean that there is an empty space in between it. The dots are just for you to easily read this. So they are passing by, driving by small forests and yellow sunflower fields and green cow meadows. And you see how vorbeifahren is split in two. That's a joy for later, don't worry about that now. Nach 2 Stunden kommen sie in Hohenwalde an. Hohenwalde, remember, Wald and hoch, high forest. So kommen, and look at the end. Such a tiny little word cannot be on its own. Very likely the verb here is ankommen. I don't expect you to know this, but kommen means to come, and an means close, so to arrive. Arriving, someone means to come close to a place. Yeah. And again, don't take me literal here, but it's helping you to remember this. So who is arriving, it's sie, and again the sie is referring to the last known persons in the story, which were Stefan and Sabine. So they arrive in Hohenwalde, and here you see 2 Stunden, 2, well, 2, you see the similarity, the Z turns into a T, and you basically the EI, if you capitalize it and delete the middle stroke of the E, you get the O anyhow. So 2 Stunden. Stunden is a tricky word. People always want to say Uhr, yeah, because of hour, which looks a lot like Uhr, but it's actually not. Stunden is hour in the sense of time, like a clock. And people know that clock means Uhr, and that causes all the confusion. The best way to remember this is to say, I was stunned for hours. And here you see stunned resembles Stunde. Remember this, I was stunned for hours. So if you want to say 2 hours, yeah, then it is Stunde. So they arrive, and very likely nach means after 2 hours in Hohenwalde. Es ist noch früh am Nachmittag, ist, and es ist, it is very common expression. It is something, something, früh. Früh you might know from Frühstück, which is the early piece. So, früh means early. Am Nachmittag, you see Mittag is Tag, means day. And nach, we just had that in the sentence before, means after midday. Means after noon, because noon is the middle of the day. So it's early afternoon. Here is a lovely one. Das Örtchen Hohenwalde ist nicht stark bewohnt. So the verb is ist, and now we look at the end. We have something that has wohnen in there. You might recognize this as a verb. So it is bewohnt. What does that mean? Well, ignore the be. Wohnen means to live, and we have the word Wohnung, which is what many people are looking for in Berlin, and that means flat, the flat. People live in flat, so a flat is something where people live, where people reside. Bewohnt is, as I said, the be often means a direction, but it's not that easy to connect this here. So Hohenwalde is nicht, you remember, hopefully, not lived. Well, bewohnen maybe in this case has more of the meaning of an agglomeration of things. So occupied, or yeah, I think that's the best word. Quick check. Inhabited, thank you for that. Inhabited. Yeah. So habitus or habit is not the habit you know, it has to do with location or living. Habitat, a natural habitat. Yeah, or habitat, however you pronounce it. So it's not habited. Stark, if you know the Avengers, Tony Stark, Stark means simply strong. So it's not strongly inhabited. And here, remember Ort, which was the place, and then you have a Chen here, which is tricky, but you might know from the word Mädchen, and you might know that it actually is a small maid. So Chen makes things small, so Örtchen is a small place. So the small place Hohenwalde is not strongly inhabited. So Mädchen, small maid. Yeah, and you can see the maid in here, right? So, es ist eher ruhig und verschlafen. So again we have is, and we look at the end, and if you have the und here, so it is ruhig and verschlafen. It is this and that. So it is, and the air, I don't know, we don't need this for now. We do this later. But ruhig is an interesting word. It comes from Ruhe, Ruhe bitte, shut the hell up. So Ruhe means silence. Yeah, and ruhig means silent. Verschlafen contains the word Schlaf or schlafen. Fair you mean in the wrong way. So Schlaf, it means to sleep. Yeah, and you will find soon that the F in German sometimes can be replaced with a P to get the English word. Give you just one other word, Schaf. It's a sheep. Or you have a Schiff, which is a ship. Or here, Bischof is bishop. So this works for a couple of words. It's always good to know or notice these. So verschlafen means kind of drowsy or sleepy. Sleepy is a better translation. Let's see what Diepel says, sleepy, yeah, in this context. As you could see in Diepel, it also means to oversleep. If you say, ich habe verschlafen, I've overslept, which means I slept wrongly in the sense that I didn't get up in time. Not that you slept badly. Yeah? Good. Here we go, a little reminder. We have entspannen. Do you remember the span? If you span something, it gets tight. And if you entspan something, de-tighten it, you relax. So entspannen means relax. And zum and the capitalization tell me to or for relaxation. It's a noun. Yeah? Capitalized words are nouns. So, the ideal ort, you should know by now, place for relaxation. That was lesson 4, chapter 4. Hope you enjoyed it. See you in chapter 5.